The great question with startups: how much equity do you give out? There's lots of data out there, so I'll mention it in brief in terms of the exact amounts, but rather I'll note that over the years we've actually done two different things. One approach that I've taken in the past is actually an M&A bonus structure. The upside, I'll mention the pros and cons of this. The pro is it's clear what people get, right? If you define it, we defined it as a year of compensation. Now, there was still some uncertainty. We could have done better with our language, with the HiddenLevers acquisition in terms of, for those who had long tenures and had been with us for a while, how much would they get? And where we ended up targeting was essentially a year of compensation, as part of the bonus for every year they had ever worked, is kind of the way that we structured it. That was the pro, though. At least it's somewhat clear, whereas with options and, other instruments that are a little bit, for the typical employee, they're a little bit less, or more inscrutable in terms of what they're worth. But the con here, and this ended up being a big problem, this is why I don't go this way anymore, is the tax consequences. So the tax consequences of this approach ended up being larger than expected. I mean, essentially, it's taxed as W-2 wages, and so that's a pretty hard hit. The other approach, the traditional approach, which I do think has merit and should be used in almost all cases, is, it's just straight up equity with a 4-year schedule. 4-year schedule and 1 year hurdle in terms of vesting. So what that means is that employees need to be around for a minimum of a year for any of their equity to vest, but once they get past a year, they get the first 25% of their equity grant, and then it sort of linearly vests towards them on the way to all of it being vested over 4 years, or at the moment of M&A, in which case it all immediately vests. That's pretty standard in the industry, and I don't see any problems with that. The other thing to keep in mind, of course, is if you pair this with QSBS status for your company, then you get into a situation where for most employees, they're paying zero taxes on their equity earnings at exit, versus this M&A bonus structure, which unfortunately can be very punitive. So while there's clarity with this, I think that the tax aspect of it makes it such that I don't necessarily recommend it anymore, and rather think that folks should keep it simple. And by the way, so many of the platforms, like Carta, there are others out there, CapBase and I think Gust and others, that make it very easy to manage your cap table and to do these things, and in many cases for free. So no excuse for not handling it that way.